Session. We are now, I think, on our ninth session. We are studying the book Man and His Bodies by Annie Besant. And we are starting today a new chapter. By the way, I hope you are using or accessing the ebook that we have posted on our website, because that has been modified so that the page numbers match exactly with the printed book. Yeah, and thanks to Ria and Asta for doing the hard work of making the page numbers match. All right, so we start a new chapter, the mind bodies. Now, note, like in the previous chapter, it said the astral or desire body. But here it is saying the mind bodies. Why bodies and not body? So I think as we go into the chapter, you will understand that here we will talk about two bodies, not one body. So on the mental plane, apparently, there are two bodies, not one body. Yeah. And as we have been doing in this book study, we will not read every line, every word, but we will pick and choose some lines to read. And the rest of it we will essentially summarize. Yeah. So let's come to page 86, the second full paragraph. I'll read that. These three concentric spheres. Now, these three concentric spheres, what she's talking about, first is the physical body, which includes the etheric double. Then the astral body, and now the mental body. So, and these are concentric. Concentric meaning the same center. They are sort of interpenetrating each other. So these three concentric spheres or bodies are man's schoolhouse and kingdom. In them, he works out his development. In them, his evolutionary pilgrimage. Beyond them, he may not consciously pass until the gateway of initiation has opened before him. For out of these three worlds, there is no other way. So some nice concepts here. She says that these three bodies are man's schoolhouse. Now, man, of course, man, woman, same thing. Schoolhouse. Why schoolhouse? Because we use these three bodies as we live this life to learn lessons, to evolve. Yeah. So we experience life at the in the physical body, astral body, emotional, mental body. And through these, as we experience life, we learn lessons. Yeah. And as we do that, we are evolving. So that is why she also says his evolutionary pilgrimage. Nice flowery language. Also, she says kingdom. Why kingdom? Because, as we go through the schoolhouse, the learning, we develop abilities, we develop powers, we learn to control things, we learn to, influence things around us, right? So those are, I think that is what she is talking about over here. Just one moment, please. Okay. And the another point she's making in this paragraph is that until moksha is received, this what she's calling the gateway of initiation. So initiation here refers to, spiritual development, and which results in moksha. Then you are no longer required to take birth. But until that is attained, we are caught in, it's called the cycle of life and death. So we are caught up in that, and we have to keep taking birth. Okay, as we go further, she talks about Devachan. You may remember in the previous chapter, astral body, also we have mentioned Devachan. Yeah. So she talks about Devachan. I'll just, instead of describing this, I'll just read on page 87. I'm reading from the second line in the middle of the paragraph. Devachan or Devalok, the land of the gods, the happy or blessed land, as some translate it. Devachan bears that name because of its nature and condition. Nothing entering that world which could cause pain or sorrow. It is a specially guarded state into which positive evil is not allowed to intrude. It is the blissful resting place in which man may peacefully assimilate the fruits of his physical life. So we have seen in the previous chapter that, after death, what happens? So the, astral body gets stripped off and it can be painful. We had said that is what in religions is often called the state of hell. But after hell comes heaven, and that is what is being referred to as Devachan. And that is, at this place now, there are no energies or no particles remaining which can in any way support negative emotions or pain or any kind of discomfort. So it's a blissful state, and we stay there waiting for the next birth. And in that state, essentially, the mental body is still in play, and that is where lessons learned during the incarnation, the last incarnation, are being assimilated, or are being sort of captured. Up- Now let's go to the next chapter. Again, let's read there. While like the other regions, it is divided. Now it is, we are talking about the mental body, is divided into seven subplanes. So we have seen in the previous, I mean earlier, that I'll just show that diagram again so we can. So we've seen the seven planes, and we've seen that each plane has seven subplanes. So if we go from the bottom, physical, astral, these two we have talked about. Now we are discussing the mental plane. And if you look at, if you zoom into the mental plane, again we see there are these seven subplanes. So let's come back to the book. While, like the other regions, it is divided into seven subplanes, it has the peculiarity that these seven are grouped into two sets, a 3 and a 4. So as you can see here, the upper three planes form one set and the lower three planes. So total of seven subplanes, the lower four form one set and the upper three form the other set. So there are two sets now that come in. So it's like actually two bodies. Now you remember why the chapter it said mind bodies and not mind body, because there are actually two bodies on this plane. And that's what is being talked about here. The three upper subplanes are technically called arupa, or without body, owing to their extreme subtlety, while the lower four are called rupa, or with body. Consequently, so you can see here in this diagram, rupa, the four lower levels, and arupa, the three. Now, when it says without body, you have to take it in a relative sense. From the from the experience, from our day-to-day experience, this is so refined, these top three levels, that it seems like there is no matter in them and they are pure energy with consciousness. But it is not so. There is matter, but it is so refined. Consequently, man has two vehicles of consciousness in which he functions on this plane, to both of which the term mind body is applicable. Mind body or mental body. Yeah. The lower of these, the one with which we shall first deal, may, however, be allowed to usurp the exclusive use of the name until a better one is found for it. For the higher one is known as the causal body for reasons which will become clear further on. So, as you can see here, what she is telling us is she's clearing up the terminologies. She's saying that henceforth, this mental body or mind body term, when she uses that term, it refers to the lower four, the lower set of the two. And for the upper three planes, the set that is formed, the term that will be used is causal body. For the higher one is known as the causal body for reasons which will become clear further on. Why is it called the causal body? That we will come to know about in a little while. Yeah. So, we can talk about a little bit more here in the sense that this the higher mental, so we can say lower mental, higher mental, or lower mental, we can just say mental, and the higher mental, we can say causal. Now, these there are significant differences between the two. The causal body is associated with the higher soul. The mental body, or the mind body, or the lower mental body, is associated with the incarnated soul. And in terms of our chakras, Master has explained this. The crown, forehead, and Agnya are associated with the upper mental and the higher soul. Throat, heart, solar, and all the lower chakras, they are associated with the incarnated soul. The throat chakra is the main chakra of the lower mental or the mental body. Yeah. And actually, there is this. I have taken this from this book, The Spiritual Essence of Man by Master Choa. This is very interesting. One point he makes here, he calls the throat chakra the abyss. The abyss. Abyss means khai, or, big deep hole where things can fall, and, when they fall, they get damaged. So if you just read with the text here, Master has explained why he calls it the abyss. Because if you are able to cross this, go beyond this, then you are, your soul connection with the higher soul becomes very strong. But most of us, we are stuck here. And it is through this throat chakra that the upper higher chakras and the lower chakras are bridged. So it can be treated like a bridge. It can be treated like a abyss, or a, like a khai. I mean, in Hindi, the word is khai, like a ditch, or a, sharp drop. So things can fall there, or it can be used to bridge the lower body up to the upper body. Yeah. So, it's nice to match what we are reading here with what Master keeps telling us, or Master has told us in his books. Okay, let's go on. We were on page 88. Now, in page 88, Madam Annie Besant starts describing. She begins her description of these two sets. So first she starts with the lower one, the what she's calling the mind body, or we can call the lower mental body, or the mental body. So she describes it very well on page 89. I'll read there in the middle of the first paragraph. When such a man, can you see where I am? When such a man exercises his mental faculties, they must clothe themselves in astral and physical matter before he can become conscious of their activity. The mind body is the vehicle of the ego, the thinker. Now, when we say ego and the thinker, we are talking about the higher soul for all his reasoning work. But during his early life, it is feebly organized and somewhat inchoate. Inchoate means unformed, or, not fully functional, and helpless, like the astral body of the undeveloped man. So this we have also looked at. I'll just show you that diagram, again. This is from Leadbeater's book, Man Visible and Invisible. If you look at the mental and causal bodies, now mental body means the lower mental, and causal means the higher mental. So you can see between the savage means a person who has just attained the human, human status. And average is, perhaps people like us. And developed, of course, means very highly developed people. So you can see how the causal body changes, how the mental body changes. That is what she is talking about here. She is talking about the person who is at this level. Yeah. Shall we go on now? In the next few pages, or let's stick to what she's talking about here on this paragraph. You can also relate it to our day-to-day experience. Most of us, or many people, or most people, they can only think emotionally. or they will think when they are acting. They cannot sit down, think something through, and then, evoke the emotions and start the action. I used to run software companies. So most of the times I would find that programmers had to sit on the computer and start hitting keys to be able to think. If I gave them pen and paper and said, okay, write, just show me the program you're going to write, give me the design on paper or just describe it to me. For most of them, it was very difficult. So we find that most of our thinking is very closely related to our emotions. Yeah. And or when we are acting, then we are thinking simultaneously. So a lot of times people call meetings, and I what I used to find is that in the meetings people are coming without having done any thinking beforehand, with no preparation. Why? Because they are unable to think unless they are talking, acting, emoting. Yeah. Then later she is also talking about that the particles of the mental body are less dense than the particles of the astral, etheric, and physical bodies, which makes sense. We are going up in the planes of existence. Now, one important point she makes here on page 90, that physical, you know, one incarnation, next incarnation, physical body remains more or less the same size. It is not like this lifetime my body is 5 feet 10 inches and 70 kilos. So next lifetime definitely I will be 2 inches taller and 10 kilos heavier. No, I might even be smaller in physical body in the next incarnation. Similarly, astral body, more or less, it will be of the same size and quality as on this one, as in this lifetime. But mental body grows from incarnation to incarnation. It expands. It also improves qualitatively. And the way she describes, Madam describes in this book, it is from as we develop mentally, the mental body improves. It becomes clearer, it becomes richer. You see more rich, bouquet of colors. It becomes more active. You can see, if you're a clairvoyant, you can see more activity. And it also trends to become less opaque or more transparent. Yeah. And this is very well summarized on page 91 in the last paragraph. Let's just read that. As regards its nature, then, made up of this subtle matter, as regards its functions, the immediate vehicle in which the self meaning the higher soul, manifests as intellect, as regards its growth, growing life after life in proportion to the intellectual development, becoming also more and more definitely organized as the attributes and the qualities of the mind become more and more clearly marked. So, actually, one of the goals of each lifetime becomes very clear. Physically, we need to get more control over our physical body. Astrally, again, more control over our emotions, more refined emotions. But our biggest area of development every lifetime is in the mind, in our ability to think, in our ability to think clearly, in our ability to understand higher and higher truths. Because by doing that, your life becomes more successful because your mental body grows. Yeah. I mean, I would again refer you back to this, this diagram that I had just shown you from man, visible, invisible. This needs, here we can't see the size growing, but that is what we are being told in the book, that the size also grows. We can see the difference in the quality. You can see how the quality changes for as you progress. Yeah. You see, one has to understand in Sanskrit or in Hindi, humans are given the name Manushya. Manushya. So that, I think the root word for that is Manas or Manasa. So why? Because the important goal for the human race is to develop mentally. Out of all the kingdoms, the plant and animal and so on, we are the ones who are blessed to have this ability to develop our mental faculty. So that is what we are supposed to engage in. This is the most important area of our development, of our evolution. Okay, let's come to the next page. Page 92, first paragraph. I'll read from the middle. Here now the shape is being described, the shape of the mental body and how it is different from the astral body. It is oval. It is oval means the mental body is oval in shape, egg-like in outline, interpenetrating the physical and astral bodies. We've seen the particles of the mental body are more subtle, smaller, yeah, more refined than the particles of the astral body, which is more refined than the etheric, which is more refined than the physical. And surrounding them with a radiant atmosphere as it develops, becoming larger and larger as the intellectual growth increases. Yeah. So, this is something that clairvoyants can see. And what Madam explains here is that, lesser clairvoyants perhaps cannot see clearly at the mental plane, but there are clairvoyants who have the ability to see at the mental plane. Let's read on page 93, first paragraph, maybe the third, fourth line. The mind comes into contact with the things of its own world meaning of the mental plane, as it were directly over its whole surface. There are no separate organs for sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. All the vibrations which we would receive here through separate sense organs in that region give rise to all those characteristics at once when they come in contact with the mind. The mind body receives them all at one and the same time, and is, as it were, conscious all over of everything which is able to impress it at all. So there is a intrinsic difference between, or this is one of the great differences between the mental body and the astral and physical body, because there in those bodies the senses or the sense organs are localized. There is a sense organ for hearing, sense organs for seeing, sense organs for touching, etc. But apparently, in the mental body, when it receives vibrations or it receives impressions, the entire mental body receives it at once. There is no localized place where it will receive. What are the vibrations it receives? Basically, mental waves or thoughts of other people. Yeah. So then on page 94, she describes how the mental body communicates, how communication occurs in the mental body, how transfer of information, transfer of ideas, how does that happen? And it's interesting to see how Master has described it. There is some material, some matter, some text. I would request you to read it. This is from the Higher Soul book. So Master says, for example, knowledge or data equivalent to a book or several books can be symbolically tossed from one soul to another soul almost instantly. The learning process and communication are accelerated at mind-boggling speed. The main function of this vehicle, which vehicle? The mental body, is receiving, processing, and sending information. Information, knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Yeah? And also, you see in page 94, the thought forms are being described, but the term thought form actually has not been used over here. She's talking about, the thought expresses itself in all these ways by the vibration setup. What are all these ways? Form, color, and sound. So this is what Master also talked about when he said that one soul will toss huge volumes of information to another soul. The mental body of one soul, mental body of the other soul, they will transfer enormous amounts of information in short period of time, almost instantaneously. And now when the recipient gets it, there is no one antenna or one organ or something. The entire mental body receives it, absorbs it, and processes it. And I was fortunate once to attend a session by Master Choa where he did an unscheduled, unprepared lecture on the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and he had said that I have not even read the Bhagavad Gita. So he kept saying during that long 2-3 hour lecture that I am, my guru is speaking through me. So his guru is transferring enormous amount of information. Can you imagine? Somebody is explaining the entire Gita. So how much information will be involved? So the guru, that means Mahaguruji, is transferring to Guruji Master Choa Kok Sui the entire knowledge of the Gita, and he is addressing 800 people sitting in a hall and transferring that. And he has not himself read the Gita. So it was quite amazing to see that, to experience that, to see that. And, when you see something like that, then all this text also makes a lot more sense because you're able to see how, it's one thing to just talk about it. The other is to actually see it, or at least to hear it from somebody who has seen it firsthand. So I hope that will help you accept this a little better. So I think we will, it's a good place to end here.